that we can attach the winch for the following shot. Now, for its great size and weight, and I think it weighs about 3 tons, the machine only fires a comparatively small shot, but it will fire at a huge velocity, something probably well over 100 miles an hour. Now the engineer's moving forward, and very gingerly, he's going to place a rock into the sling and arrange it under the bed of the machine. He needs to be very careful at this point, because should the machine go off prematurely and his arm was in the way of the sling, his arm would end up in the moat with rock. Now it's very important that nobody stands directly behind the machine, because if it was to misfire, then as like as not the rock could fly backwards as well as forwards. But luckily for you chaps sitting over there, they never go sideways, so you're perfectly safe. Right, so the engineer's taken up the trigger rope, and upon my command, the machine will be operated. Okay. Prepare to loose. Loose. The Middle East. It's thought that Arabic traders flying the Silk Road across the South China Sea brought the ideas for the carrier back to the Middle East. Now at some point after this, a budding Muslim engineer struck on the idea that if he replaced a large crew of men with a huge box full of counterbalance, he could actually throw much larger missiles. You need quite a large crew to pull this machine down. Some of the bigger machines were armed with capstans and all sorts of pulleys and winches and things to actually make the job much easier. And it needed to be, because, like I said, this is quite a small counterbalance box on this machine, and some of them had boxes which could take up to 10 tons or more in weight.
Yeah.
Quite often these machines were given names. The siege of Stirling Castle, King Edward had a machine built which he named the War Wolf. It was in fact a giant trebuchet. It was built in London by a team of 60 carpenters and then loaded onto boats and travelled up the North Sea into the Firth of Forth. And then for the last few miles to Stirling it was manhandled by hand. It was built in front of the town walls, and in front of the castle walls. And at which the good citizens of the town who were hiding inside the castle at the time promptly surrendered rather than face bombardment by this mighty machine. Now, King Edward was rather off put by this because he built this huge machine at great expense and carried it all the way to Stirling. So he actually refused to accept their surrender until he'd had a couple of shocks. Now, the machine has been winched down all the way, and the trigger engaged, and we're now backing off the winch and releasing the ratchet, and the engineer will now walk under the machine. Quite a dangerous job, that. And he's making sure that the winch rope is well out of the way. We don't want it fouling the sling. Now another engineer is going to take up the sling and place it onto the bed of the machine. And into the sling we're going to place our missile. Now it's actually a concrete moulding that we're using. Now when he's happy that everything's okay and it's all wrapped up, an engineer is going to come forward and take up the trigger rope. It's important that he doesn't actually touch the trigger until the chap is out from underneath the engine. He's sitting under a suspended 2-ton weight and he doesn't want it dropping on his head. Right, so the engineer's taken up the trigger and we're all ready to go. So then, for the final shot of this particular show, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to join in with me from a countdown from 5, okay? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, loose!
And do it again.
The next shot will be the last shot on this cycle. And if you want to see how Are you ready, Alan? You ready? Absolutely not.
Can you stand here next to me? You're in exactly the same position as you were.
Ready? Are we ready? Whenever you're ready. I'm ready.
The boy's going to time 1 minute. 1 minute. See how many are tired.
There was no way he was actually going to accept that surrender until he'd had a couple of shots with his new toy. Now, as you can see, the large counterbalance box rising up here actually replaces the crew in the Harrier. Now, the trebuchet itself was probably invented in the Middle East. Some enterprising Muslim engineer who obviously worked out that if he replaced the crew of men with a large counterbalance box, he controlled much larger weapons, much larger missiles. English knights returning from crusades in the Middle East brought the ideas for these weapons back to Northern Europe with them. And they were used extensively all through Europe during the Middle Ages, until they were eventually replaced by gunpowder cannons. Now the trigger's been engaged, and the engine is just tying it off just for safety. We don't want anybody tripping over the trigger rope while we try to load it. And most of the crew have been hauling the engine down and they're going to retire for safety. The engineer walks under the machine, making sure the winch rope is well out of the way. We don't want that fouling on the thing. Now the stick takes off the end of the machine. And the other end of the stick is placed loosely over a hook, a release hook at the end of the arm. Now the engineer will take a missile, in this case it's a concrete molding weighing about 9 or 10 kilos, into the stick, and range it onto the back of the machine. Now when he's happy that everything's okay, he'll retire to a safe distance, and another engineer will come to and take up the trigger rope. Right then, ladies and gentlemen, we're ready to go. So for this show then, I'd like you all to join in with me in a countdown from 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, move!
Here it goes.